Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Ted, and today I'm hanging out with
Nerdarchy's Dave.
And here we dive into part 2 of the Mystic class. This time we're talking about disciplines and talents. Hey, jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So in part 1 of our Unearthed Arcana review of the Mystic, we discussed the core class itself as well as the archetypes. This one's going to be a little shorter. We're not going to go over every nuance and everything that there is. Maybe call out some of the ones we really like, but we're going to go over the disciplines and the talents. So I'm going to go a little out of order here, and one of the things I want to point out, the very limiting factor that keeps the Mystic from being super overpowered is a lot of I think all the talents, when you attack with them, it's save or nothing. That's definitely going to create a dynamic where 50% of the time, maybe more, depending what they're doing, they're just not going to be useful when using that talent that they can use all the time.
That is true, but I also think that some of the talents, they aren't geared towards, well, this is going to be like, I need to do damage with it.
That's true. They also have very utility ones that are fun and interesting.
Like, all right, you got light step. As a bonus action, you alter your destiny and weight to improve your mobility. For the rest of your turn, your walking speed increases by 10 feet. And the first time you stand up this turn, you do so without expending any of your movement if your speed is greater than 0. So, technically, a bonus action is supposed to just be like a quick thing, something that doesn't even really require, much. So this is a talent. You can do this over and over again. It doesn't require any of your side points. So you could just constantly be like, all right, I'm moving faster.
Well, it also speaks to previous editions of Dungeons & Dragons when it comes to Psionic, especially 3rd edition, where one of the cool things that they had a lot of time was being able to do things as a free action and stuff like that.
Right.
A lot of the psionic feats. So I feel like they folded that into the talents.
Yeah. So then there's mind meld. You get the ability to communicate telepathically. I don't know why you have this one, because very early on you get to be telepathic.
You get telepathy.
So yeah. I don't understand that one. Delusion I thought was kind of cool. You create a sound. Its volume can range from a whisper to a scream. So like you've got this weird thing that's going on. Blade meld, you can lock the weapon onto your hand so that it can't be removed, by force.
Yeah, mind meld, the only thing you really get is basically the Vulking ability to, basically grab a memory from them. So it's like the rest of it is kind of pointless.
You get a charm effect that is a cantrip. I don't believe any of the castery versions have such a thing. You've got your light spell, you've got your mage hand, they're there.
And then you got a handful of damage effects.
Right.
Let's call it out right away, right in the beginning, guys. They do something really good here that they fixed. That one of the things that sucks about 5th edition spellcasting.
What's that?
Many of these powers, when they charm you, it calls right out that you don't know you were charmed. You don't know you were under someone else's influences, and on other ones, they're just ambiguous about it. I don't know if it's intentional or not.
This doesn't say that.
So there's plenty of them that literally call out and say, "Hey, they don't know," and there's other ones they don't say at all. So that part, is a little murky. Could use a little clarification, unless there's an overriding rule when it comes to enchantments that I'm not thinking of. There's another thing. So I'm going to just call out like the big bullet points, One of the things that keeps the Mystic from being super powerful is the fact that they're limited in the amount of damage they can do. Generally they max out at 7 die 10.
Yes.
When you compare that to what a sorcerer or a wizard can do, or even warlock at high levels, maybe even bards, not a big deal. They're not. Come on, meteor swarm. For the love of God.
Yep. Now I will say that combining several of the effects together, when you get high level, it's possible that, all right, well, the special pool that gives you, when we're talking high levels, all right, you can get that extra 11 points 4 times before you finish a long rest. All right, that's honestly like, all right, well, I want to blow 4 big powers and I haven't even gotten into my my reserves yet. I haven't even gotten into my main stash, I should say.
Well, you're not really using those, right? Though.
Yeah,
if you
well,
do it
no,
that way.
yeah, well, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like they've got a lot of bang for their buck, even if their bang is not as good as your buck. You know.
That's true. But, and again, well, you're still limited by the fact of how many actions you can take, too. Yeah, so one of the things it looks like, too, where spells, if you cast a spell as a bonus action or action or somehow, you can then only use a cantrip. Well, this doesn't say anything about that. So there's a lot of abilities that only require a bonus action reaction to activate. So you would be able to use a lot more action of your actions to blow through your power points and get more things going on at the same time.
I would agree with that, but at the same time, I think some of your options are limited because of how many disciplines you're able to have, and you're only going to be able to have one thing focused on at any given time.
Yeah, that part is pretty much always the same, and that's kind of the cool thing. And you're going to want to think like really carefully about what you pick. Some of them are fun and flavorful, like adaptive body. While you focus on this discipline, you don't need to eat, breathe, or sleep. You gain the benefits of a long rest. You can spend 8 hours engaged in light intact activity rather than sleeping during any time.
In my opinion, that's much better than bestial form getting advantage on animal handling checks.
Yes.
So now there's others that like, okay, you know, brute force has got advantage on athletics. There was another one that's like, oh, well, I'm going to get resistance to, you know, this type of damage.
There is certain ones like brute force. Like if you wanted to build a grappler, you know, you delving into mystic would make for a nasty grappler.
You can get that at first level.
But the other thing is with like bestial form, like yeah, granted your psychic focus isn't that great. But the other abilities you get really cool, like
oh, absolutely. Bestial Claws was literally my favorite ability throughout all of these, because it's like, oh, however many psi points you spend on this attack is going to do that many extra die 10. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and then you can kind of just start you can stack all the effects from your bestial transformation together. They just all last an hour. This really does kind of rebuild Animal Infinity from AD&D much better than it was
like
done
a Metabolist.
Yeah, than it was done in 3rd edition. It gives you more options, it gives you a little bit more of the feel. Now, it might not be quite as cool as like you had a character that would make claws and this poison scorpion tail. You can't really do that part, but you can do the claws and a chitin without any problems. You'd be more like a crab than a scorpion, but it's still kind of cool.
Yeah, I actually really like the bestial form. I don't think the animal handling is the best focus, but everything else on there, I was totally digging, because your transformation gives you, all right, I've got all these different options that I can choose from, and their combined pool is what my psi points is my psi limit is affected by.
And let's face it, unless you're actually a soul knife, you have 3 disciplines, so you're going to have, you know, whichever one you want to be focused in to choose. So you might choose something and go like, I'm never going to use the focus on this probably. But so it's only like a bonus action to switch them in and out anyway.
Right.
So, but you might be like, I'm never going to use the focus on this, but I like these other abilities, so I'm just going to use it over here. So it's not really a big deal. I think there's some ones on here that are fun, like brute force knockback. You blow 70 points and you can knock someone back 70 feet.
70 feet, and if they happen to be able to strike an object at that 70 feet, you'll push them 70 feet. They'll stop there and take 7d6 damage.
Oh, that's an extra bonus, but think about it. Most things can't even get back to you in the round. You know what I mean? So you just wait for them to get to you and knock them back.
All right. It uses its action and its its action and its movement to move the 60 feet closer. You take 10 foot forward, you smack it back 70 feet, and then you...
And here's the thing. Brute Strike, same thing, just do a bunch of extra damage. You can do an extra 76 damage, right? Bonus action to activate it. You hit, as a reaction, you activate knockback. And so, so you're doing all that damage, and you could stack those together. So there are some instances where you could really put some
hurting on your points.
And as well as your adversaries. So that is one thing to look at, and I really think that's where the room for abuse is with Mystic is, there's definitely a clear case of here where if you can have an object to hit at your 70 feet away, you have 14 points to spend. I would just have to reread and double check and make sure I could spend all 14 in the same round.
Right.
I'm pretty sure like the maximum is the maximum you can spend on
a power,
an individual power.
So we'd have to look and see if there's something that we've missed, or see if there's any kind of clarification on some of this stuff.
Or if they're saying, well, brute strike or knockback are both immortal disciplines. So, is it the max you can spend on the discipline itself?
Right.
So, having double checked, you can't use the same discipline and just bump it 14 points. But
if you used bestial claws, all right, I slash you for 7 die 10 damage, and then react with knockback and hit you 70 feet back.
You can combine them, and that's where the true beauty of the Mystic is going to be finding the right synergy between different disciplines, so you can have nuclear options if you want them. But again, the thing is, you only get so many side points, and they come back every long rest. I mean, eventually you do get a decent amount of them.
Soul Knife okay.
Just keep hitting them in the head.
We've knocked them all down. Okay, I'm gonna go and stab them all. All right, I just got 14 points back.
So I think you max out like at 100 or at 80. No, we said 44. So 115 is where you kind of max out for the day.
All right,
taking that into account that the 11 bonus. So,
but are you going to be able to use effectively all of those points?
Yeah, then that is the question. How does that math out?
So I don't know. It part of it is going to really depend upon, number one, what kind of game you're running, and like how often are you going in those points. Are you playing games like we are, and we go into combat in Dave's game, and Ryan's like, all right, I'm Novaing. And I'm like, holy crap, you're wasting a polymorph on something like that? Are you kidding me?
Well, one of these days is going to be a surprise when it's like, oh, we have another combat to fight now.
Well, I mean, he still came out of it with, a number of, abilities still to be able to use. It's not like he used everything he had in one combat, but at the same time, like, all right, we usually do only 1 to 2 combats a night. Whereas other groups, they'll play 6-7 hours, they'll have 5 combats, and you might only get 1 rest in there.
Intellectual Fortress, that's a throwback to the older editions.
Absolutely.
Of Psionic, right to first edition AD&D with the name. And this is the one that does, when your focus gives you resistance against psychic damage. So if you're someone that's engaging in psionic combat with other psions, like this is kind of the one you want to have. And then it gives you cool reaction abilities that are very useful.
I dug the diminution and giant growth. Like, I don't think they're going to come up super often, but I think, when they do, it's going to be fantastic.
Well, I think the giant growth will come up more often. And the fact that
yeah.
you can do enlarge, or you can do really, really enlarged. So that's kind of cool where you can get even bigger.
Imagine your giant form and then using, like, bestial claws, and this is coupled with your fact that at 8th level you're already doing extra damage on your attacks. How many dice are you swinging here?
There's things like Iron Durability that gives you extra armor class. There's one that gives you...
I initially heard Iron Door, and I'm like, yeah, that was another one that was used back then.
Yeah. There's definitely one that is coming to mind. It gives you inertial armor, and that's your bonus action, and it literally gives you mage armor, but 1 point better than actual mage armor.
That's under Mastery of Force.
Yes.
As an action, you sheathe yourself in an intangible field of magical force. For 8 hours, your base AC is 14 plus your dexterity modifier, and you gain resistance to force damage.
And nothing in this game gives you resistance to force damage.
This effect ends if you are wearing or don armor. So not only does it say, hey, mage armor, you suck, but I'm also resistance to your magic missile. Nah.
Okay, so that's not the focus. That's not the focused one. That is actually an ability, right? But it's only 2 points and it lasts 8 hours.
Yeah.
8 hours is really, really good. Like if you're playing the Soul Knife or even the Immortal, this is one you would want to actually consider, because it also gives you other cool abilities too.
This one is a Wu-Gen discipline.
You can still take it though. You're not limited.
Well, I thought you're limited by your choice.
No, you can take any of them, but your bonus choices are limited by.
So you would take this one
as your discipline at first level,
so
and then
that
your
one
other
is
two would have
Mastering
to
of
be.
Force. All right, so you would have to take this one at first, and then choose the other ones. Okay.
Yeah. So, and the other thing to point out is, like, here's one of the places where I would, all right, this is kind of jank. All your mastery of elements basically let you do a summon elemental as an action. And, the wizard can't do, none of the other spellcasters can do that. They call it, basically they're like, oh, you're not summoning an elemental, you're animating fire, but use the stats for whatchamacallit, and it lasts an hour.
So it's just as good.
Yeah. So it costs 7 points, but you can do that at 10th level, and you're just like, boom, meet Willie the fire elemental, no problem.
Which we know 7 points, they say is the equivalent to a 5th level spell slot.
Yes.
And we have that direct correlation because they gave it to us.
And well, that's kind of the other thing. Like, none of these get above what would be considered a 5th level spell slot in their power, but they just get to do a lot of kind of like cool and interesting things. So overall, I like it. I would have to really go through this over and over again and play one to see where I could break it.
Absolutely. I agree. I think this is great. I think it's a lot of fun. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. The choices are fantastic. I want to play one. Of course, it's something new. I want to play it. So what do you guys think of the Mystic? Why don't you put your thoughts and comments down below? While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can tweet at us over on Twitter at Nerdarchy.
So until next time, stay nerdy.